Hello everyone, we will start with our course on summary of class 8th NCERT of science subject with first lesson on crop production and management. Agriculture is the science or practice of farming which includes cultivation of soil for the growing of crops and rearing of animals to provide food, wool and other products. So in short, agriculture includes both farming as well as animal husbandry. Crop is the term used for the plants of the same kind which are grown and cultivated at one place on a large scale. Animal husbandry, on the other hand, is the term applied when animals are reared at home or in farms. In India, we follow a cropping pattern according to seasons where three different kinds of crops are grown in a year. The first one is Kharif crops. These crops are sown in rainy season, that is from June to September. The example of Kharif crops includes paddy, maize, soyabean, groundnut, cotton, etc. The second crops are Rabi crops which are sown in winter season, that is from October to March. The example of Rabi crops include wheat, gram, pea, mustard, linseed, etc. Third one, though not so popular but sown in some places in India between March to June, is known as Zaid crops. The example of Zaid crops include crops like watermelon, muskmelon, bitter gourd, pumpkin, cucumber, etc. For cultivating crops, various activities are performed which are called agricultural practices. It includes 7 steps, that is preparation of soil, sowing of seeds, adding manures and fertilizers to the soil, irrigation, protection from weeds, harvesting and storage. The first step before growing a crop is to turn the soil and loosen it, which is called tilling or plowing. This practice allows penetration of roots deep within the soil, and the loosened soil helps in growth of earthworms and microbes which are present in the soil. This in turn leads to addition of humus to it. It also brings the nutrient-rich soil to the top so that plants can use these nutrients. The next step is sowing of good quality seeds. Clean and healthy seeds of good variety are selected and sown in the fields. Appropriate distance is to be kept between the seeds, which is important to avoid overcrowding of the plants, and it also helps the plants to get sufficient sunlight, nutrients and water. The manures and fertilizers are then needed for the proper growth of the plants and are added to the soil. The substances that are added to the soil in the form of nutrients for the healthy growth of plants are known as manures and fertilizers. Continuous growing of crops makes the soil poorer in certain nutrients, and this is the reason why manures and fertilizers are needed. Manure is an organic substance which is obtained from the decomposition of plant or animal waste. On the other hand, fertilizers are chemical substances which are rich in a particular nutrient. For example, urea, ammonium sulfate, superphosphate, potash and NPK are the type of fertilizers that are being used. Continuous and excessive use of fertilizers has made the soil less fertile. Fertilizers have also become the source of water pollution. So the fertilizers may be harmful to the soil as well as to other natural resources. Thus, to maintain the fertility of the soil, certain steps could be taken, such as organic manure should be used, or the field should be left uncultivated or fallow in between two crops, and the practice of crop rotation, that is, growing of different crops alternatively, should be adopted. Fertilizers and manures differ from each other. Fertilizers is inorganic substance, whereas manure is a natural substance. Fertilizers may be prepared in factories and they do not add humus to the soil, whereas manure can be prepared in the fields and provides a lot of humus to the soil. Fertilizers are very rich in plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and this is the place where manure has a disadvantage that it is relatively less in plant nutrients. However, the added advantage of applying manure to the soil is that it enhances the water holding capacity of the soil. It also makes the soil porous, due to which exchange of gases becomes easy, and it increases the number of friendly microbes in the soil and also improves the texture of the soil. Water must be added to the crops at regular intervals, and this practice is known as irrigation. There are numerous sources of irrigation such as wells, tube wells, ponds, lakes, rivers, dams and canals. Water is absorbed by the plant roots, and along with water, roots of plants also absorb minerals and fertilizers. Water is also essential for germination of the seeds, and it protects the crop from both frost and hot air currents. Various irrigation methods have been used in our country and can be clubbed into traditional and modern methods. Traditional methods such as moat or pulley system, chain system, dhekli, rahat or lever system have been in use in our country. In addition to it, certain modern methods such as sprinkler system and drip irrigation system are now being used. Modern methods help us to save water. The sprinkler system, for instance, is more useful on uneven lands, places of insufficient water availability, and also for sandy soils. In such system, perpendicular pipes having rotating nozzles at top are joined to main pipelines, whereas in drip irrigation system, water falls drop by drop just at the roots. Drip irrigation system is best for irrigating fruits, plant, gardens and trees, and is useful in water scarce region. The undesirable plants that may grow naturally along with the crops are known as weeds. The weeds are harmful for the crops because they compete with the crops for nutrients, sunlight, water, and thus hamper their growth. The removal of weeds is called weeding, and it can be done by tilling, uprooting or cutting of weeds, or by applying weedicides such as 2,4-D. Harvesting simply means cutting of crops after it is mature. After harvesting, the grain seeds need to be separated from the chaff, which is known as threshing, and this can be done either with the help of combine or by a process known as winnowing. Various festivals are celebrated in India during harvesting seasons such as Pongal, Baisakhi, Holi, Diwali, Nabanya and Bihu. The harvested crop has to be protected from moisture, insect, rats and microorganisms. The grains are properly dried in the sun to reduce the moisture content in them, and this drying of the grains prevent them from attack by insect, pest, bacteria and fungi. While storing, farmers store their grains in jute bags or metallic bins, and the large scale storage of the grains is done in silos and granaries to protect them from pests. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Bhanwar Singh, and in this lesson from the course of Summary of Class 8th Science NCERT, we will be dealing with microorganisms. Microorganisms are the living organisms around us that normally cannot be seen with naked eyes, and these are classified into 4 major groups, that is bacteria, fungi, protozoa and algae. Apart from these 4, viruses are also microscopic, but they are not considered as living organisms. They reproduce only inside the cells of host organisms such as bacterium, plant or animal cells. This is the reason that they are not considered as living organisms. Viruses cause common ailments like cold, influenza or flu, most of coughs, and also diseases like polio and chickenpox. Microbes may be single-celled, for example some algae and protozoa, or they may be multicellular, for example algae and fungi. Microorganisms can survive in all types of environment and climate, ranging from ice cold to hot springs to deserts and marshy areas. Also, microbes may live solitary, for example, amoeba, or they may form colonies to live, for example, fungi and some bacteria. Microorganisms may also be of two kinds on basis of their mode of nutrition, that is heterotrophic and autotrophic. Heterotrophic are those kind of microorganisms which survive on other things and do not make their own food. Autotrophic microorganisms, on the other hand, can synthesize their own food just like plants. Some microorganisms may be useful. For example, conversion of organic waste into harmless and usable substances may be done by microorganisms, such as conversion of plant waste to manure. Lactobacillus bacterium is another example which promotes the formation of curd and other bacteria such as yeast, which are involved in formation of cheese, pickles and many other food items. Yeast is also used for commercial production of alcohol and wine in the process of fermentation. Some bacteria and blue-green algae have ability to fix the atmospheric nitrogen and enrich the soil with nitrogen, thus increasing its fertility. Antibiotics are those medicines that kill or stop the growth of disease-causing microorganisms. These are also produced with the help of microorganisms. For example, streptomycin, tetracycline and erythromycin are type of antibiotics. In 1929, Alexander Fleming found the first antibiotic, penicillin, from a little green mold when he was working on a culture of disease-causing bacteria. Antibiotics should be taken only with proper advice of qualified doctor, and the course of antibiotic should be completed, or else it results into drug resistance. Antibiotics are not effective against diseases caused by viruses such as cold and flu. Antibodies are those substances produced by human body when disease-carrying microbe enters our body to fight the disease. The body remembers the microbe, and if enters again, it remembers the way to fight it, which is known as immunity. If dead or weakened microbes in form of vaccine is introduced in a healthy body, the body produces antibodies against them, and this process is known as vaccination. Edward Jenner discovered the vaccine for smallpox in 1798. Diseases like cholera, tuberculosis, smallpox and hepatitis can be prevented by vaccination, and in India, two deadly diseases have been eradicated with the help of vaccine, which are smallpox and polio. Microbes may also have harmful effects. The microbial diseases which spread from an infected person to a healthy person by the air, water, food or any physical contact are known as communicable diseases. For example, cholera, common cold, chickenpox, tuberculosis, etc. Pathogens are the disease-causing microorganisms. Carriers are those insects or animals which carry the disease-causing microorganisms along with them and spread them during their course of action. For example, housefly or female Anopheles mosquito, which is a carrier of parasite of malaria, or female Aedes mosquito, which carries dengue virus. Various diseases are caused by microbes in human. For example, tuberculosis, which is caused by bacteria, measles, chickenpox and polio, all three caused by virus, cholera and typhoid, again caused by bacteria, hepatitis A caused by virus, and malaria, which is caused by protozoa. Tuberculosis, measles, chickenpox and polio, they spread through air, or chickenpox may also spread through contact, and polio with water. Cholera is mainly spreaded with water or food, whereas typhoid and hepatitis A spread with water. Malaria is caused by a mosquito, which is a carrier. Microbes also produce diseases in plants such as citrus canker caused by bacteria and transmitted by air. Rust of wheat, which is caused by fungi and transmitted by air and seeds, and also yellow vein mosaic of bhindi or okra, which is caused by virus and spreaded by an insect. Several microorganisms not only cause disease in plants and in humans but also in other animals. For example, anthrax, which is caused by bacterium in both human and animals. Foot and mouth disease or FMD, which is caused by virus in cattle. Microbes also spoil the food. To prevent this, various methods are employed to preserve the food, such as chemical method, in which salts and edible oils are used as preservatives, for example, sodium benzoate and sodium metabisulfite. Common salt is used to preserve meat and fish, amla, tamarind, raw mangoes, etc. Sugar is used for preservation of food because sugar reduces the moisture content to inhibit the growth of bacteria. Oil and vinegar is used because bacteria cannot sustain in such a medium, so it is used to preserve vegetables, fruits, fish and meat. Pasteurization is also done for preservation of milk. The milk is preserved using this when milk is heated to above 70 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds and then suddenly chilled and stored. This process was discovered by Louis Pasteur and hence known as pasteurization. Storage is used for preservation of food, under which airtight packets and containers are used so that microbes cannot grow due to the lack of moisture. Nitrogen in our atmosphere is about 78% by volume. It remains constant because it follows nitrogen cycle. Atmospheric nitrogen is fixed by lightning. Lightning fixes nitrogen into compounds of nitrogen in the soil. Also, nitrogen fixing bacteria and blue-green algae fix atmospheric nitrogen, and then bacteria in turn fix nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds, and which is then added to the soil. These compounds of nitrogen in the soil are taken by the plants, which are then eaten by the animals, and by the nitrogen waste from excretion and their death, they change into compounds of nitrogen in the soil. These compounds of nitrogen in the soil, with the help of bacteria, turns into compounds of nitrogen, and the bacteria turns compounds of nitrogen in soil into gaseous nitrogen, which again gets mixed with the atmospheric nitrogen. So in this way, the nitrogen cycle gets completed. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. Also, please rate and review the course. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. Moving further in the course of Summary of NCERT of Class 8 Science, we will go through the lesson on synthetic fibers and plastics. Synthetic fibers are made by human beings and are not naturally occurring. They are made up of polymers. Polymers are chain of small units which are joined together, which are repeating in nature. These small units are in the form of chemical substances. Polymer exists in nature also. For example, cotton is polymer of cellulose, and cellulose in turn is polymer of glucose. However, cotton, wool or silk are natural fibers and not synthetic fibers. There are various synthetic fibers. Major example of synthetic fiber includes rayon, which is also known as artificial silk because it has properties similar to silk. Rayon is obtained by chemical treatment of wood pulp. Although wood pulp is natural substance, but rayon is classified as synthetic fiber because it is man-made fiber and not naturally occurring. Rayon is cheaper than silk and can be dyed in various colors. It can also be mixed with cotton for making of bed sheets or with wool for making of carpets. Another prominent example of synthetic fiber is nylon. Nylon was prepared from coal, water and air in 1931 without using any natural raw material. Hence, it is first fully synthetic fiber. Nylon is strong, flexible, elastic, and lightweight. It is also lustrous and easy to wash. The common articles of nylon include socks, robes, tents, toothbrushes, car seat belts, sleeping bags, curtains, etc. It is interesting to note that nylon thread is stronger than even a steel wire, so it is also used to make parachutes and ropes for rock climbing. Polyester and acrylic are also a type of synthetic fibers. Polyester is made up of repeating units of chemical substance which is known as ester. Ester are chemicals that give fruits their smell. Polyester does not wrinkle easily, and a very common example of polyester is terylene. It can be drawn into very fine fibers and is used in clothing industry. Another example of polyester is PET, which is used in making bottles, utensils, films, wires, and other useful products. Another type of synthetic fiber is acrylic, which resembles wool. The synthetic fibers can be easily mixed with natural fibers. For example, polycot. It is mixture of polyester and cotton, or polywool, which is mixture of polyester and wool. Synthetic fibers are also cheap in comparison to natural fibers and available in variety of colors. These are more durable and affordable, and also all synthetic fibers are prepared from petrochemicals. They dry up quickly and are readily available and easy to maintain. However, the only disadvantage with synthetic fiber is that they melt upon heating. Plastics is also a polymer. There may be two different types of arrangement of units, which is linear or cross-linked. Plastic is easily moldable, that is, it can be rolled into sheets or made into wires. Plastics can be recycled, reused, colored, and melted. For example, polythene, which is commonly used in making of polythene bags, is a plastic. Plastics are of two types, that is, thermoplastic and thermosetting plastics. Thermoplastics are such plastics which gets deformed easily on being heated and can be bent easily. For example, polythene, which is used in polythene bags, or PVC, which is used in toys, combs, and containers. Thermosetting plastics, on the other hand, are such plastics which do not get soft upon heating and are hard. For example, bakelite, which is used in electrical switches, handles of utensils, and melamine, which is used in floor tiles, kitchenware, and fabrics which are fire resistant. Plastics are cheaper than metals and easy to handle. They also do not react with water and air, that is, not corroded easily. Plastics are light, strong, durable, and can be molded in various shapes and sizes. Also, the plastics are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Teflon is a special plastic on which oil and water do not stick and is used for non-stick coating in utensils. Special plastic cookware are used in microwave ovens wherein heat cooks the food but does not affect the plastic. Every type of waste takes some time to get degenerate. For example, peels of vegetable and fruits take 1 to 2 weeks. Paper takes 10 to 30 days. Cotton cloth takes 2 to 5 months. Wood takes around 10 to 15 years. Woolen cloth takes about a year. And all these are biodegradable. However, tin, aluminium and other metal cans take 100 to 500 years, and plastic bags may take several hundred years to degenerate. Thus, the plastics are non-biodegradable. That is, these are not decomposed by natural processes. It is not environment friendly and causes environmental pollution. Burning process in synthetic material is quite slow and it does not get burned completely. During burning of plastic, it releases lots of poisonous fumes into the atmosphere, causing air pollution. The plastic is harmful for cattle, which chokes their respiratory system or forms a lining in their stomach and can be cause of their death. Polythene bags also cause the clogging of drains. To stop pollution by plastics, we must avoid use of plastics as far as possible. The bags which are made up of cotton or jute should be used, and also biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste should be collected separately and disposed of separately. Most of thermoplastics can be recycled. However, during this process, certain coloring agents which are added limits its usage, especially for storage of food. 4R principle should be practiced, that is, reduce, reuse, recycle and recover. Also, the plastic bags should not be thrown in water bodies or on road. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. Also, I would request you to please rate and review the course, which will help me in giving you better and more interesting courses. Thank you very much. Hi everyone. So far, we have studied the lessons relating to crop production, microorganisms, and synthetic fibers. In this lesson of this course, we will be going through metals and nonmetals as well as the chemical effects of electric current. The metals and nonmetals differ from each other and have different physical properties. For example, metals are hard and lustrous, whereas nonmetals are soft and dull. Metals are malleable, that is, they can be beaten into thin sheets, whereas on the other hand, nonmetals are non-malleable, that is, they break down into powdery mass upon beating. Metals are ductile, that is, they can be drawn into wires. On the other hand, nonmetals are non-ductile. Metals are sonorous, that is, they produce sound upon beating, whereas nonmetals are not sonorous. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. On the other hand, nonmetals do not conduct heat and electricity. The example of metals include iron, copper, aluminium, calcium and magnesium, etc. Nonmetals include examples such as sulfur, carbon, oxygen, phosphorus, etc. Just as we have seen, the difference in physical properties lies in metals and nonmetals. In the same way, metals and nonmetals also differ in terms of chemical properties. Upon reaction with oxygen, both metals and nonmetals form oxides. Metallic oxides are basic in nature, whereas oxides of nonmetals are acidic in nature. Metals react with water and the reaction may be vigorous, as in case of sodium, or may be slow, as in case of iron. Nonmetals do not generally react with water, though they may be very reactive to air, as in case of phosphorus. Upon reaction with acids, metals produce hydrogen gas. Nonmetals do not react with acids. In case of reaction with bases, metals react and produce hydrogen gas. Reaction of nonmetals with bases are complex. Metals also displaces another metal from its compound in aqueous solution, and this type of reaction is known as displacement reaction. It only takes place in case of metals. A more reactive metal in such reaction replaces a less reactive metal. But its vice versa is not true, that is, a less reactive metal cannot replace the more reactive metal. For example, zinc can replace copper and copper sulfate and iron sulfate, but copper and iron cannot replace zinc in zinc sulfate. That is, zinc is more reactive than copper and iron. We have just now studied displacement reaction, where a metal displaces another metal from its compound in aqueous solution. Related to this phenomena is electroplating. It is the process of depositing a layer of any desired metal on another material by means of electricity. When electric current is passed through copper sulfate solution, for example, copper sulfate dissociates into copper and sulfate. Free copper gets deposited on electrode that is connected to negative terminal of the battery. The layer of deposited material has some desired property which the metal of the object lacks. Electroplating is used in various fields. For example, chromium plating is done on many objects such as car parts, bathtubs, kitchen gas burners, bicycle handlebars, wheel rims, etc. because chromium has shiny appearance and does not corrode easily. It also resists scratches. Jewelry makers also electroplate silver and gold on less expensive metals. The ornaments then have the appearance of silver or gold but are much less expensive. Tin can used for storing food items are made by electroplating tin onto iron. Tin is less reactive than iron, so food does not come into contact with iron and does not get spoiled. Iron is also used in bridges and automobiles to provide strength, but it tends to corrode and rust. Thus, zinc is electroplated onto iron to protect it from corrosion and rusting. Both metals and nonmetals have profound uses in our day-to-day life. Nonmetal is essential as the constituents of air, which all living beings inhale during breathing. Nonmetals are also used as fertilizers to increase the fertility of the soil and used in water purification process. Nonmetals are also used in purple colored solution which is applied to wounds as an antiseptic, and it is also used in crackers. Metals are used in making machinery, automobiles, aeroplanes, trains, satellites, industrial gadgets, cooking utensils, water boilers, etc. In fact, in day-to-day life, we found profound use of metals and non-metals everywhere. Materials which allow electric current to pass through them are good conductors of electricity, whereas materials which do not allow electric current to pass through them are poor conductors of electricity. In 1800, William Nicholson had shown that if electrodes are immersed in water and current is passed, bubbles of oxygen and hydrogen were produced. Oxygen bubbles are formed on positive electrode, whereas hydrogen bubbles are formed on the negative electrode. In a conducting solution, if electric current is passed, deposits of material or metal may be seen on electrodes, and also a change of color of solution may also occur. Nowadays, we are increasingly using light emitting diodes or LEDs. LEDs are available in many colors such as red, green, yellow, blue and white. LEDs glows even when a weak electric current is passed through it. These are increasingly being used for many operations such as in traffic signal lights or for lighting, etc. A cluster of LEDs may be grouped together to form a light source. They consume less electricity and have longer lifetime than light bulbs and fluorescent tubes. But LEDs are expensive than compact fluorescent lamps or CFL. But CFLs have a disadvantage that it contains mercury, which is toxic. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. Also, I will request you to please rate and review the course. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. In this lesson, based on summary of Science NCERT of class 8th, we will go through topic that is coal and petroleum and sound. The resources are of two types, that is natural and artificial. The natural resources may again be of two types, that is inexhaustible resources such as sunlight or air, which will not exhaust in near future, and exhaustible resources which will be exhausted in near future, such as coal, petroleum, minerals and natural gas. Coal is formed from the dead remains of living organisms, that is fossils, and hence it is a fossil fuel just like petroleum and natural gas. It was earlier used in railway engines to produce steam and is used in cooking food or in thermal power plants or in any other various industries. The coal is formed when the dead plants get slowly converted to coal under high temperature and high pressure. The coal mainly contains carbon and hence the process of conversion of dead vegetation into coal is called carbonization. When coal is heated in air, it burns and gives off carbon dioxide gas and is used in various industries to get some useful products such as coke, coal tar and coal gas. Coke is tough, porous and black substance which is almost pure form of carbon. Coke is used in steel industry and in extraction of many metals. Coal tar is black, thick liquid which has unpleasant smell and it is mixture of about 200 substances. Coal tar is used in manufacturing industry. Coal gas is obtained during processing of coal to get coke and is used as fuel in many industries and a source of heat. Petroleum is another type of fossil fuel. Petroleum is a natural resource through which petrol and diesel are obtained. Petroleum was formed from organisms living in the sea. The dead organisms, when settled at the bottom of the sea, gets covered with layers of sand and clay. Over millions of years, in absence of air and due to high temperature and high pressure, these dead organisms gets transformed into petroleum and natural gas. Petroleum is dark oily liquid with an unpleasant smell. It is a mixture of various constituents such as petroleum gas, diesel, petrol, lubricating oil, paraffin wax, etc. The process which is used to separate these constituents of petroleum is known as refining and is carried out in petroleum refinery. There are various constituents of petroleum which are received after its refining. For example, petroleum gas or LPG, which is used as fuel in home and industry, petrol, which is used as motor fuel, aviation fuel and solvent for dry cleaning, kerosene, which is used for stoves, lamps and in jet aircrafts, diesel, which is used as fuel for heavy motor vehicles and electricity generators, lubricating oil, which is used in lubrication, paraffin wax, which is used for ointments, candles and Vaseline, and bitumen is also a constituent of petroleum which is used in paints and road surfacing. Natural gas is also a fossil fuel which is formed along with petroleum from organisms living in the sea. Natural gas is easy to transport through pipes and is stored under high pressure as compressed natural gas. It is used in power generation and being a cleaner fuel is used for transport vehicles. It is also used as a fuel in home and factories and for manufacturing of chemicals and fertilizers. India has vast reserves of natural gas which is found in Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and in Krishna Godavari Delta region. Fossil fuels are exhaustible natural resources and therefore it is necessary to use these fuels only when absolutely necessary. Burning of fossil fuel also produces toxic substances such as oxides of nitrogen, sulfur and carbon monoxides. Therefore, less fossil fuels should be consumed and it will result into better environment, less effect of global warming and their availability for a longer period of time. In India, the Petroleum Conservation Research Association or PCRA advises people how to conserve petrol or diesel while driving. Sound plays an important role in our lives and helps us to communicate with each other. A vibrating object produces sound, and in some cases, these vibrations are easily visible to us. But in most of the cases, the amplitude is so small that we cannot see them. In instruments like sitar, the sound is heard on plucking the string, but it is not the sound of only string, but of the whole instrument which starts vibrating. When we speak, sound is produced just like you are hearing my voice. In human beings, the sound is produced by voice box or the larynx. It is located at the upper end of the windpipe. The two vocal cords are stretched across the voice box, and the vocal cord in men are about 20 mm long, and in women they are about 15 mm long. Children have very short vocal cords, and this is the reason why men, women and children all have different type of voices. The vibrating motion is also known as oscillatory motion, and the number of oscillations per second is called frequency of oscillation. The frequency is expressed in unit hertz. Frequency determines shrillness or pitch of a sound. The displacement of vibrating object from the mean position is called amplitude of the oscillation. Loudness of the sound is proportional to square of the amplitude of the vibration producing the sound. The loudness is expressed in a unit which is known as decibel. Human beings can only detect the sound in the range of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, and this sound is known as audible sound. Some animals such as dogs have ability to hear the sounds of frequencies higher than 20,000 Hz, and also ultrasound equipment works at frequencies which are higher than 20,000 Hz. The unpleasant sound that we hear are called noise. The presence of unpleasant sounds in the environment causes noise pollution, and this may be caused by the sounds of vehicles, explosion including bursting of crackers, machines, loudspeakers, etc. This noise pollution may cause many health related problems, lack of sleep and hypertension, that is high blood pressure, anxiety and many other health related disorders. It can be controlled by using silencing devices in aircraft engines, transport vehicles, industrial machines and home appliances. Also, the noisy operations must be conducted away from residential areas. The use of automobile horns must be minimized, and trees must be planted along the roads and around the buildings so that they may absorb the excess of noise from the environment. Thank you. Hello everyone. Moving further on our course of summary of NCERT of class 8th of science subject, our next lesson is on combustion and flame. Combustion is a chemical process in which a substance reacts with oxygen to give off heat. Fuel is the substance that takes part in combustion and is said to be combustible. The fuel may be in form of solid, liquid or gas. Sometimes light is also given during the process of combustion either as a flame or as a glow, and the presence of air is necessary for any combustion to occur. A very peculiar example of combustion is burning of a matchstick. In a matchstick, a mixture of antimony trisulfide, potassium chlorate and white phosphorus is applied on the head of a matchstick made up of suitable wood. When matchstick head is struck against a rough surface, white phosphorus gets ignited due to heat of friction. But white phosphorus is dangerous for both workers and the users. So, because of it, nowadays safety match contains only antimony trisulfide and potassium chlorate. The rubbing surface has powdered glass and a little red phosphorus, which is less dangerous than white phosphorus. When the matchstick head is struck against the rubbing surface, some red phosphorus gets converted to white phosphorus, which then reacts with potassium chlorate in matchstick head to produce enough heat to ignite the antimony trisulfide. And in this way, the matchstick burns. You may have seen or heard that in summer season, at some places, dry grass catches fire. From the grass, it spreads to trees, and very soon the whole forest is on fire. Most of the forest fires are, although, result of carelessness of human beings. The lowest temperature at which a substance catches a fire is called its ignition temperature. The substances which have very low ignition temperature and can easily catch fire with a flame are called inflammable substances. The examples of such substances include petrol, alcohol, liquefied petroleum gas or LPG. For a fire to occur, there are three main requirements, that is, a fuel, air which supplies that oxygen, and heat to raise the temperature of the fuel to reach its ignition temperature. So, fire requires three things and it can be controlled by removing one or more of these requirements. Water is commonly used to control the fire because it cools the combustible substance and brings its temperature below its ignition temperature. But water works only on things like wood and paper. Fire of electrical equipments or oil and petrol cannot be controlled with water as it may conduct electricity, and due to being heavier than oil, it sinks below oil and petrol. For these types of fires, carbon dioxide is best extinguisher. Carbon dioxide, being heavier than oxygen, covers the fire as a blanket. Advantages of carbon dioxide is that it does not harm electrical equipment and can be stored at high pressure as a liquid in cylinders. So far, we have come to know about combustion. The combustion may be of three types, that is, rapid combustion or spontaneous combustion, or it may be of the type of explosion. Rapid combustion is when the substances burns rapidly and produce heat and light. Such combustion is called rapid combustion. The type of combustion in which a substance suddenly bursts into flames without the application of any apparent cause is known as spontaneous combustion, and it is a cause of concern in coal mines where it has resulted in many disastrous fires. Explosion is a sudden reaction wherein there is evolution of heat and light and sound. In such reactions, large amount of gas is liberated. In combustion, the substances that vaporize during burning gives flames. The example of such substances include kerosene oil and molten wax. If we will see the structure of flame, it consists of three zones. The outer zone is zone of complete combustion, which is blue in color. The middle zone is of partial combustion and it appears yellowish in color. The innermost zone is the zone of unburnt wax vapors, which is black in color. For combustion to occur, we require fuels. The substances which are used to generate heat energy for domestic and industrial purposes are called fuels. The characteristic of good fuel includes that it should be readily available, it must be cheap, and burns easily in air at a moderate rate. It should produce large amount of heat and should not leave behind any undesirable substances. In today's world, no fuel is considered as an ideal fuel, which shall have all the characteristics of good fuel. The amount of heat produced on complete combustion of 1 kilogram of a fuel is called its calorific value. It is expressed in kilojoule per kilogram, and the calorific value of certain fuels are given in this slide. You may see that hydrogen have a higher calorific value, that is around 1,50,000 kilojoules per kilogram. Biogas has 40,000 kilojoule per kilogram calorific value. Liquefied petroleum gas or LPG has 55,000 kilojoule per kilogram calorific value. Methane and compressed natural gas have 50,000 kilojoules per kilogram calorific value, and petrol, kerosene and diesel, all three of them have calorific value in the range of 45,000 kilojoule per kilogram. Burning of fuels, and especially fossil fuels, leads to harmful effects. Carbon fuels like wood, coal, petroleum releases carbon particles which causes respiratory diseases such as asthma. Incomplete combustion of carbon fuels release carbon monoxide gas, which is a poisonous gas. And combustion of most fuels releases carbon dioxide gas, whose increased concentration leads to increasing global warming and the resultant climate change. Burning of coal and diesel releases sulfur dioxide gas, an extremely suffocating and corrosive gas. Petrol engines that we use gives off gaseous oxides of nitrogen, and the oxides of nitrogen and sulfur dissolve in rainwater to form acids and cause acid rain, which is harmful for crops, buildings as well as soil. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on Contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. Also, I will also request you to please rate and review my lessons and courses, which will let me know better about your expectations. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Bhanwar Singh and we are going through course of Summary of Class 8th NCERT of Science. In Lesson 7, we will go through Conservation of Plants and Animals. A very common cause of concern these days is cutting of forests or deforestation. Deforestation is clearing of forests and using that land for other purposes. There may be different causes of deforestation, such as procuring land for cultivation, building of houses and factories, making furniture or using wood as fuel, forest fires, and as well as severe droughts. Deforestation has severe impact on our environment. It can lead to increased temperature of the earth's surface, the increased level of pollution. It may also increase the level of carbon dioxide in atmosphere, which in turn will lead to global warming effect. The groundwater also gets lowered in the areas of deforestation. Rainfall and fertility of the soil also gets decreased. The soil erosion, which in turn leads to desertification, is also a major consequence of deforestation. The chances of natural calamities such as floods and droughts increase in the areas of deforested land. Thus, deforestation disturbs the overall balance of the nature. India is a blessed country in terms of richness of species. India has more than half of the world's tigers, 65% of Asian elephants, 85% of great one-horned rhinoceros, and 100% of Asian lions. India is 6th on a list of 12 mega biodiversity countries in the world. It contains 2 of 34 biodiversity hotspots of the world. These 2 biodiversity hotspots are the Eastern Himalayas and the Western Ghats. Some of the rarest Asian animals are also found in India, such as the Bengal fox, the marbled cat, Asiatic lion, Indian elephant, Asiatic wild ass, Indian rhinoceros, gaur, etc. Biosphere is that part of the earth on which living organism exists or which supports life. Biological diversity or biodiversity, on the other hand, refers to the variety of organisms existing on the earth, their interrelationship, and their relationship with the environment in which they live. To protect biodiversity in flora and fauna, protected areas have been created. These may be wildlife sanctuary or national park or biosphere reserve. Wildlife sanctuary are the areas where animals are protected from any disturbance to them and their habitat. On the other hand, national park are the areas reserved for wildlife where they can freely use the habitat and natural resources. Biosphere reserves are the large areas of protected land for conservation of wildlife, plant and animal resources, as well as traditional life of tribals living in that area. Biosphere reserves help to maintain the biodiversity and culture of that area, and it may also contain other protected areas in it. Thus, a biosphere reserve may have a sanctuary or national park also. For example, Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve consists of one national park named Satpura and two wildlife sanctuaries named Bori and Pachmadi. Plants and animals found in a particular area are termed flora and fauna respectively of that area. Species are a group of population which are capable of interbreeding and can produce fertile offsprings. They have common characteristics. For example, human beings are a species. Endemic species are those species of plants and animals which are found exclusively in a particular area and are not naturally found anywhere else. An animal or plant may be endemic to a zone, a state, or a country. The destruction of habitat, increasing population, introduction of new species are threat to endemic species and may endanger their existence. Wildlife sanctuaries provide protection and suitable living conditions to wild animals. In such places, poaching of animals is strictly prohibited. The list of protected animals in our wildlife sanctuaries include prominently black buck, white-eyed buck, elephant, golden cat, pink-headed duck, gharial, marsh crocodile, python, and rhinoceros. National parks are the reserves that are large and diverse enough to protect whole sets of ecosystems. They preserve flora, fauna, landscape, and historic objects of an area. An ecosystem is made up of all the plants, animals, and microorganisms in an area with non-living components such as climate, soil, river deltas, etc. India's first national park was Jim Corbett National Park, and India's first reserve forest is Satpura National Park. Rock shelters and rock paintings are also found in Satpura National Park, which gives evidence of prehistoric human life in these jungles. Animals whose numbers are diminishing to a level that they might face extinction are known as endangered animals. Small animals are much more in danger of becoming extinct than the bigger animals. Tiger is one of the many species which are slowly disappearing from our forests, and to conserve them, Project Tiger was launched by the Government of India. There is a Red Data Book, which is the source book that keeps the record of all endangered animals and plants, and there are different Red Data Books for plants, animals, and other species. Migration does not only occur in case of human beings, but in other species also, and can be prominently seen in case of birds. Migratory birds fly to far away areas every year during a particular time period because of climatic changes. They fly for laying eggs as the weather in their natural habitat becomes very cold or inhospitable. Manufacturing of paper is an important cause of deforestation. So, a paper can be recycled 5 to 7 times for use, and it should be recycled so that deforestation can be prevented. For conservation of plants and animals, reforestation is the need of hour. Reforestation is restocking of destroyed forest by planting new trees. New trees so planted should be generally of the same species which are found in that forest. It is not necessary that reforestation is done by humans. It may also happen naturally if the deforested area is left undisturbed for some time. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. I will also request you to please rate and review my course and lessons, which will let me know better about your expectations. Also, you may feel free to ask questions related to my subjects. Thank you. Hi everyone. In lesson 8 of course based on science subject of NCERT of class 8th, we will go through cells, their structure and functions. Cell is the basic structural unit of an organism or organ. Robert Hooke in 1665 discovered and coined the term cell. The different organisms have different number of cells and their shape and size also vary from organisms to organisms. Most of the cells that are known are microscopic in size and are not visible to unaided eye. And microscope is needed so that these cells can be enlarged or magnified. The smallest cell known is 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer and is seen in bacteria. The largest cell is that of the egg of ostrich, measuring 170 millimeter to 130 millimeter. An organism on the basis of number of cells may be classified into two groups, namely multicellular organism and unicellular organism. Multicellular organisms are those which are made up of more than one cell. It is interesting to note that multicellular organisms begin their life as a single cell which is fertilized egg, and it multiplies in numerous cells as the development proceeds. On the other hand, unicellular organisms are those which are made up of only one single cell. A single-celled organism performs all the necessary functions that multicellular organisms perform. The cells are found in different shapes and their shapes is related to their specific functions. Generally, cells are of three shapes, that is round, as may be seen in red blood cells, or spherical and elongated. However, some cells are long and pointed at both ends and exhibit a spindle shape, as may be seen in muscle cells, and sometimes they are branched like a neuron or nerve cell. The structure of cells exhibits some common features. The basic components of a cell are cell membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. The cytoplasm and nucleus are enclosed within the cell membrane, which is also known as plasma membrane. This membrane separates cell from one another and also from the surrounding medium. Cell membrane is porous and allows movement of substances or materials both inward as well as outward. Cell wall is additional surrounding layer found in plant cells around cell membrane. Cell wall is absent in the case of animal cells. Cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance which is present in between cell membrane and nucleus. Various other components or organelles of cells are also present in cytoplasm, such as mitochondria, Golgi bodies, ribosomes, etc. Protoplasm is the entire content of a living cell and it is called living substance of the cell. Nucleus is generally spherical and located at the center of the cell. Nucleus is separated from the cytoplasm by a membrane called nuclear membrane, which is also porous and allows movement of materials between cytoplasm and nucleus just like a cell membrane. Nucleolus are the smaller spherical bodies which are present in the nucleus, and the nucleus helps in inheritance of characters of parents to offsprings, and it also acts as a control center of the activities of the cell. Chromosomes are also present in nucleus, which are thread-like structures, and they carry genes which help in inheritance or transfer of characters from parent cell to offspring cells. The chromosomes can be seen only when the cell divides. The genes which are present in chromosomes are a unit of inheritance in living organisms. It controls the transfer of a hereditary characteristic from parent to offspring. When compared, certain structures are common to both plant cells and animal cells. However, they differ on certain counts. For example, cell membrane is present in both plant cells as well as animal cells, whereas cell wall is present only in plant cells and absent in animal cells. Nucleus, nuclear membrane, cytoplasm, all three of them are present in both plant cells and animal cells, whereas plastids are present only in plant cells but are absent in animal cells. Vacuole, on the other hand, is present in both plant cells and animal cells, but a difference lies that in plant cell, vacuole is large, whereas in animal cell, it is small in size. So far, we have studied function and structure of the cell. However, on basis of structure of nucleus, the cell may be of two types, that is prokaryotic cells or the eukaryotic cells. In prokaryotic cells, the cells have nuclear material without any nuclear membrane. That is, the nuclear membrane in prokaryotic cell is absent. Prokaryotic cells include such as bacteria cells and blue-green algae. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are those cells which have well-organized nucleus within a nuclear membrane. That is, nuclear membrane is present in such eukaryotic cells. The example of eukaryotic cells include onion cells and cheek cells. If this course is helping you in any way, please pay a voluntary professional fees by clicking on Contribute. It will really motivate me to come up with better and more engaging courses. I will also request you to please rate and review my lessons and courses, which will let me know better about your expectations. Also, you may feel free to ask questions relating to my subjects. Thank you very much.